In this Divi 5 tutorial, we're going to create a full screen animated intro like this one. A section that takes up the entire screen with text that appears gradually through smooth animations. And the best part is that we're going to build it without touching any code. Let's go step by step. First, we create a new page using Divi 5. Before starting with the design, we go into the page settings and apply a black background. This will serve as a base so the background image and the animations stand out much more once they start appearing on screen. It's a small design detail, but it really helps improve the final result. Now we're going to create the first section. This section will be the visual base of the entire intro, so this is where we'll add the background image. In the section settings, we set the minimum height to 100 viewport height. This makes the section fill the entire screen. Then we add the background image we want to use. And with that, the base of the design is ready. On top of this section, we'll add another section where we'll place the content. We also set its height to 100 VH so it matches the background section. Inside, we add a centered row, since this is where we'll place the headline and the rest of the text. This two-layer structure allows us to work with the background and the content separately. Now we add the main title. We use a text module set as H1 and change the color to white so it stands out clearly over the image. To create a more interesting effect, we duplicate the module and separate the words of the title. Then we go to the column settings and enable the flex layout. We set the direction to row and center the content. This way, the words of the title align perfectly in a horizontal line. Below the headline, we add a new row with a small secondary text or tagline. Here, we can use a lighter or more elegant font, depending on the style of the project. This text helps complete the composition and gives the intro a bit more presence. Next, we adjust the position of this section. First, we remove the spacing between the rows so the content feels more compact. Then, we change the section position to absolute so it sits on top of the background section. Finally, we add a black background with 70% opacity. This creates a subtle overlay effect that significantly improves the readability of the text over the image. Now we move on to the key part, the animations. First, we apply an entrance animation to the first content layer. We set the duration to 1,500 milliseconds so the appearance feels smooth. Then, we apply the same effect to the second layer, but with a 1,500 millisecond delay. This makes the elements appear in sequence, giving the intro a much smoother and more fluid feel. To finish, we'll also animate the text rows. First, we set the rows to hidden, so they don't appear before the animation starts. Then, we apply a slide animation. We select the word on the left, set the starting opacity of the animation to 100%, choose Enter from the bottom, and set the duration to 500 milliseconds. We also add a delay of 1,750 milliseconds. Once that's done, we copy the attributes and paste them onto the word on the right. But this time, we change the animation so it enters from the top. Finally, for the subtext animation, we repeat the same process. We can paste the attributes again, but this time we slightly increase the delay so it appears a little later. And that's it! With these steps, you now have a full-screen animated intro in Divi 5, created entirely using the Builder's visual tools. It's a great way to improve the first impression of a website and give it a much more professional feel. If you'd like to keep learning about Divi 5, stay tuned because we'll be sharing more tutorials like this soon.